Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We're doing things a little differently in this entry. I've been spending time at home over summer, which has been really great. Taking it slow, enjoying the space. But since I'm at home and not at the bakery, naturally I still need to eat bread. So I thought it would be interesting to take you through my process when I'm making bread at home. Something that's naturally going to be more approachable, more sensible for the home baker. It's not a tutorial by any means, though if you are interested, perhaps I could attempt something like that. But nonetheless, I thought it would be cool to give you a look. So I've just fed my starter for the morning and popped it away in the prover. And so for the next few hours I've got time to do my own thing. A few morning rituals, meditation, a little bit of yoga and stretching. As you can see, Bonnie likes to join me for these sessions, which is slightly adorable. I do apologise for the extraneous noise. The neighbours are having some landscaping done. Hence my headset. But as it's summer, naturally I'm spending a lot of time outdoors in my garden. And I've had a pretty good year of growth. There's also just a lot to do in terms of maintenance and watering in these harsh Australian summers. But when I have the time, I do love to spend it out here. Next on the agenda was sun drying some tomatoes. We had a few leftovers after doing a day making sauce up at Nonna's place. We weren't able to process them all, so I took about half a box home. This is typically done at the end of summer as well as the sauce. Just ways of preserving the end of year harvest, essentially, or end of season, I should say. Tomatoes are at their ripest, and there's likely a surplus, and that's what we do. This was my first time trying the sun drying process all on my own. It does take several days worth of sun when doing it this way, but I think it was worth it. They turned out really well. Salt is also a big part of this process. We need to draw moisture out as much as we just need the sun to heat and dry. It's antibacterial too. I've had quite the glut of silver beet, or chard you might call it, most of spring and summer, trying to find unique ways to process it, preserve it. So I've actually been turning it into kraut, which as far as I know is not a typically done thing, but it certainly seems to work as far as I can tell. I harvested about 1 kilo here, all told, and you'd barely be able to tell. So my starter's going to be ready soon. So just getting a little order lease set up, which I find just makes hand mixing easier. I do hand mix at home. Just quickly mix the flours, let it sit around for an hour or so. Ideally, I like to make my bread while I've got the day at home. So fit it around my tasks and plans for the day. So we're back about an hour later. Starter is ready to go. All told, probably took about 4 hours from when I mixed it. And I'm just pinching a little bit off the top to keep the starter going for next time. And I'm sure you know the rest. Dump it all in and give it a good mix. Relatively simple process. So from here on out, I'll just be working in approximately 30-minute blocks. Again, just keeping it dead simple. So after starter goes a bit of salt, a little bit of extra water as well. It's worth noting that oftentimes I've just dumped everything in at once. No ceremony, no order. But today I apparently felt like adhering to a little structure. Back in the prover it goes. Now we've got another 30 minutes to kill, so crack on with processing and weighing the silver beet. And it's time for stretch and folds. 3 sets, 30 minutes apart. Again, nothing too complex. And on we crack with the kraut. Salt's gone in, and now we just squeeze the heck out of it. Into a jar, under some weight, and then it sits around for a couple weeks. Final set of folds here. Dough is looking pretty happy. Nice and active. Cohesive, smooth. All has gone well. And now we're dividing and shaping. A couple hours later, approximately. I think all told I allowed this to bulk ferment for about 4.5 hours. And that's at 28 degrees Celsius for those who are curious. Making 3 loaves of bread here. About 900 grams each. For what it's worth, I only switched to the plastic scraper because I just refinished my bench tops, and the idea of scratching them made me very upset. And so I'll let these rest on the bench until they look nice and relaxed once again. And then we head into shaping. Again, this is not an exhaustive tutorial, so I'm kind of just blitzing through shaping as I normally would. Though I'll reiterate that if you're curious, if you're keen to see more in depth with regards to my process, I am happy to consider a dedicated tutorial video of sorts, so let me know down below. Next morning, oven has been preheated. Dough has been proofing overnight in the fridge. And we're ready to bake. Now I happen to have my Rothko oven at home. I don't want anyone to think it's necessary to have a semi-commercial oven in their kitchen to make bread. I have the option and it offers me the best results. In my view, the closest you can get is using a Dutch oven, a combo cooker of some sort. Honestly, the results are essentially the same. The main advantage I have here is I can do multiple loaves at a time. That is one squeaky bottle. Releasing the steam about 20 minutes in. Not too pretty just yet, but we're getting there. All in all, I was pretty pleased. I had no intention of leaving you hanging. Bread does need to cool down before you slice it open. And it was lunchtime, so... I think I ended up going with avocado, homegrown cucumber, my last batch of charred kraut, and some homemade fried chili oil. And of course, homemade bread. And it's all the more satisfying when you eat a meal that incorporates things you've produced yourself. Apparently I hadn't felt like I'd done enough over the last couple of days, so went down to the back of the property and foraged for some blackberries. They are considered an invasive species in our region, but the fruit is good nevertheless. This time of the year they're absolutely prolific. Obviously great fresh, but great to cook with as well. A quick disclaimer perhaps that this is not a great demonstration of safety protocol when picking blackberries because they are spiky. So perhaps gloves and long sleeves are recommended. I've had some practice at this point and my hands are somewhat numb to their sting, but I would not recommend it to the inexperienced berry forager. Today I felt like making some jam. Blackberries and sugar and heat is all it takes. Blackberries seem to set really well. They don't need any added pectin or other fruit. And it's absolutely delicious. So I figured I had better do a direct-to-camera segment, but just a quick chat about the fact that, as you may have noticed, every second of this entry has not been at the bakery. If you follow my social media, you may already know I've decided not to continue baking and operating from that space. There was nothing wrong with the space itself. The kitchen was suitable. The retail space itself was really nice, high standard, good vibes, excellent amenities, fantastic landlords. Nothing to complain about in that respect. The solo entrepreneur hustle, at least in that capacity, just I don't think is really for me, honestly. Again, I spoke about this on social media. It's a really tough gig. I think you just need to be a particular type of person to really do it. Because I'm not disparaging the craft. I still love making bread. I clearly intend to continue doing so, albeit in a slightly reduced capacity. It's just rough. I just wasn't enjoying it. Hours are absurdly long and out of sync with the rest of the world, so I would necessarily be asleep when friends and family and loved ones want to do stuff. And because my operation was so small, I couldn't afford to hire anyone to help without essentially going into debt. So that would necessitate business loans, which would then send me further into that world, if that makes sense. So I was kind of on this knife's edge where it was kind of like, you got to go all in. And there are people out there, entrepreneurs that have that vision and that mindset. I think you also need a kind of single-mindedness, like to be able to be all consumed by one thing and really have a passion for building something, having a sort of singular vision, which, as I've come to learn, I don't think I really have. What I really found is that just being a baker, and when you're running a bakery, that's all you really get to do. Because all my downtime, at least, was dedicated more or less to rest. You know, I was trading 2 days a week, so then I was baking 2 days in advance as well, right? So 1 day's baking, 1 day's trade. Twice a week, that's already 4 days. Then there's at least 1 more day of prep, sometimes 2. Not full days, mind you. That being said, the production and retail days were also really long. I was looking at 50, 60, sometimes 70 hours a week just on the bakery, which I know doesn't sound like much, which might not be much for some people. I know there are others out there who are probably doing it far tougher than I, who have to work 2 jobs or work crazy hours to make ends meet. I understand that. I recognize my privilege. I had the option to slow down. It was too much. It was just too much on one thing for me, is the thing. Since I've been home over the summer, and it's not like I haven't been productive in any sense, but I've been productive across a range of stuff. You know, I've been out in the garden, and I've been doing the preserving and still baking for the house, and now I'm getting back into other streams of creativity. My music has come back, and so it wasn't that it was too much just in terms of raw hours, but it was too much just having to do one thing, and it weighed on my shoulders. It felt really onerous, and you know, I got through the bake over the holidays, and then, you know, I was planning to take a few weeks off, and I had equipment failures that I couldn't address, so my break was necessarily extended. But basically, the longer that break went, the less desire I had to go back. And for a little while, I wrestled with it, because it was like, no, once you get back in the rhythm, you'll be fine. You just kind of got that like holiday hangover sort of thing almost, you know. You get used to being at home, and I'm pretty introverted, so it was kind of that sense of, get back into it. You'll get back into the flow, and it won't feel so bad. But nope. It just became clear, not all of a sudden, but over the course of those weeks, that the right decision for me was not to go back and just be a solo full-time baker. Even the idea of going to work at other bakeries, either, you know, relief work or temporary shifts or part-time, is appealing to me. I enjoyed the process of making bread, but ironically, it's only like 40 or 50% of the work when you're doing it solo. Yeah, I hope this doesn't disappoint you. Because I know, although this channel is small, the vast majority of you have decided to watch and subscribe because ostensibly you have some kind of interest in production, small-scale production bakeries, of which technically I no longer am. And so this whole video, this whole entry was an exploration in maybe doing something a little different while still relevant to your interests. I can still make bread a sort of central pillar of what I do here. I learned a lot in my 3 years of running a bakery solo and doing bread at other bakeries as well. And I would love to impart that knowledge to the extent that I can. I think I can demystify some of the processes and ideas and the math that home bakers can find really daunting and confusing. But also this other like tangential food stuff. I've realized as well, one of my big passions is food more generally, not just bread. I love cooking at home. I have a European heritage. Food is in my blood. Learned a lot from my family on how to cook and that sort of thing, how to preserve. I'm learning how to ferment, all that sort of homesteady, slow living stuff. Very interested in it. And very interested in sort of food systems more generally, like where it comes from, how far it has to travel, what's in season and what's not. There's a lot of like kind of lost knowledge. Perhaps it's stuff that we can talk about. I happen to be vegan as well, plant-based. So all my cooking revolves around that, which hopefully means everything I do is like accessible to everybody, because I love cooking a lot. And so like I'm not making crappy lettucey food. I'm making really enjoyable, hearty, tasty meals that also just happen to be plant-based. And a lot of it is rooted in specifically like my Sicilian background and that sort of stuff. And you know, like even in this entry. I know I wasn't exhaustive in my instruction with how I do bread at home, but I could feasibly do a really concise, shorter form video that takes you more in depth as to how I do bread, how I would maybe recommend doing bread. So I'd love to know what you think. Let me know down below. Future videos would certainly sort of maintain this sort of vibe. I mean, I've got this property to look after, this house that needs renovation. I hope to become more and more self-sufficient with what I grow in the garden. And anyway, I have plans, but this is me. This is the vibe. Bread will still be around. I just won't be baking it at a commercial premise. So if that sounds like your speed and you'd like to learn more bread stuff, because now I have the time and hopefully we'll have the energy to actually teach you about bread stuff. Not that I'm some genius expert person, but I made a couple of thousand loaves of bread last year alone. So I have some things hopefully I can shed some light on. Anyway, like I said, leave a comment. Would love to know what you all think. I do implore you to stick around if you can, because I've been very encouraged by how this channel has sort of developed in these early days. So yeah,